Boom, what's up, Vegas? Welcome back to TMS First Dad Daughter Podcast Fight Vegas. I don't know if I can actually prove that we are, but we're going to say that we are. We're going to manifest it because eventually energy becomes matter, matter becomes energy. But that's another topic for another day. We're coming at you live from this Sin City. This is Sin City because Las Vegas is the only Sin City that we know of. And even if somebody else is out there claiming to be Sin City, they are not, because we have sex, we have gambling, we have alcohol, we have debauchery, we have corrupt politicians in a corrupt school district. What's up, 702? I'm Mr. 702, a.k.a. CPAAF, a.k.a. Dupre. That's my government name. Don't at me. That's why we played that song. And I'm here with my partner in crime, Taylor D., affectionately known as
Dupre Jr.
And a.k.a. Switzerland. That's her self-gloss because she says she is neutral. Please rate, like, subscribe. This podcast is unofficially brought to you by Starbucks, because I've been going there every day for about 20 years, twice a day. AG1, because it's like drinking a salad in a cup, and it provides the nutrients I need. If you're going to be 51 years old with a six-pack, you're going to drink some AG1. I'm 51 years old with a six-pack, and I have no shame in admitting that. And then finally, Range Rover, Aston Martin, and the ubiquitous Tom Ford. So let's jump right into it. Kickstart show. Taylor's take. Go.
Woo.
Hey, woo.
Okay. My hot take for today is something Dad debates me on a regular basis, and it is that dogs have butts.
Whoa.
This conversation, I don't know why it comes up so much, but anytime I mention Nora Girl's booty, he's like, dogs don't have butts.
Yeah, so dogs don't have butts. If you actually look at it, they have like hamstrings and a sphincter just being a hole. Now, the only reason why this even becomes an issue is because one of my homeboys back in the day, we used to work in a mail room, and there was a lady there by the name of, we're not going to blow her up, just initials PP. One day she came walking by. She has like these skin tight jeans on. So it's like circa 1992. And, you know, we're looking at her, and the way she's walking around was like she had like gangster booty or something. And he just looked at her and said, "What's up with her dog ass?" And the implication was she had no ass. So therefore, we deduced from that implication of not having ass, dog ass, and therefore dogs don't have asses.
I mean, their butts just don't look like human butts. They're not humans. They're not going to have like the same thing going on.
If you put a thong on a dog,
why would you do that?
There would be no butt cheeks, okay?
Oh my gosh, why would you do that?
But if we're saying that, we're saying if they have a butt, if I put a thong on a dog,
no,
they're not going to have any butt cheeks. They just have a hole. That's it. They take a crap. That's their their where they deposit the stuff, and that's about it. That's all they have. They don't have anything else.
Their anatomy is different than ours.
Therefore, they don't have butts. We can associate butts with humans. You can't say in one instance that they're not like humans, but then they say and their anatomies are different than ours, but then say they have butts.
They do have butts. Their butts just don't look like ours.
I don't think dogs have butts.
Like they have legs, but their legs don't look like ours.
Do chickens have lips?
I don't know. Dogs have lips.
That was my way of just trying to get out of the. We could probably just debate that from here to Timbuktu.
For no reason.
And I will let you know that I am absolutely 100% in the minority on that. My SO, whatever you want to call her, agrees with Taylor 100%. Vociferously, like to the point where it's like it puts a lot of stress and strain on our relationship. Like my daughter monitors all the social media accounts. I don't do anything. I just hop on the mic. I'm like Ron Burgundy, put the screen in front of me, and then I go, and then I'm done, and then I check out for the week, and she takes care of everything. But yesterday she told me, "Hey, Dad, hot take Lamar rant went well on TikTok, and people are adding you, and they're hating on you." And so therefore, if anybody that knows me knows that I'm just going to keep drilling, instigating, and I'm just going to ride this horse and this wagon until the wheels fall off. So thank you, Lamar, for losing yesterday to the Raiders. A lot of people got bounced out of their survivor pools because the hot pick yesterday was the Baltimore Ravens to win straight up versus the Raiders. And make no mistake about it, the Raiders are not a good team, even though they won yesterday. They will finish the season sub 500. They'll win about 5 or 6 games. Now, I'm going to continue my Lamar rant, so don't at me, because I would say that most of the people that are contributing to TikTok that are hating on me they are fantasy football player guy. And fantasy football player guy just gets caught up in stats, not wins and losses, which I don't know. I just thought professional sports was predicated on wins and losses. But those guys kind of live at home in the basement. They spend too much time in the closet because they can't get laid. Look, take notes or stay broke about what we're doing here on this podcast, especially when it comes to football, because I have watched and learned more or forgotten more about football than like 80% of the people here that are watching this podcast. So I'll double down on my take from last week. Lamar will not win a Super Bowl. And I just harken back to Cam Newton, who in his prime was a better Lamar, and he couldn't win. He was bigger, he was stronger, a way better passer, and for whatever reason, he couldn't break through. Sorry, I don't need a human joystick as my quarterback. I need a general who stands tall in the saddle, who can deliver like heat-seeking missiles, and has a great aerial repertoire that can blow the cover off the defense. Call me crazy, but I don't want my quarterback to also be my best running back. That's some Pop Warner stuff.
I think fantasy football has really taken over like what football is today. Like I know so many people who won't watch a game, but they play fantasy football, which really doesn't make sense to me. And like, you're losing money. You don't understand the sport, but your boyfriend told you to play fantasy football, so you are.
Yeah, I mean, look, look. Here's the thing: is the reason why people are getting paid more in football now has to do with gambling, has to do with fantasy football. So there's a lot more eyeballs, I guess, on it. But at the same time, it's kind of skewed what like is significant and important in the game itself. And at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. And so now you see people comparing people from this current era to like the era or the previous eras that I grew up in. They're like, you know, if you look at take like Troy Aikman. I grew up a Cowboy fan. I'm not so much a Cowboy fan anymore because 30 years of futility, but that's a different show for a different day and could probably like consume about 15 podcasts. But take like a Troy Aikman, for instance. Troy Aikman played within the dynamic of the offense and didn't do more than what he needed to do. But at the end of the day, Troy Aikman ended up with 3 Super Bowls, right? Because when it was time to perform, and you can at me on this, check out his playoff stats. His stats actually got better in the playoffs. And when they asked him to deliver, it was his time to deliver. But I don't know. It was crazy. They actually had a team and they were more focused about wins as opposed to like getting stats, and they actually got paid for wins as opposed to now players getting paid for stats. And so we are living literally in the era of the divification of football, where it's like all these players care about is their IG accounts, is their stats, is the number of catches, the number of yards, because that has like superseded, like, to me, wins and losses in the NFL.
You talked about it last week. It's not a like individual sport, it's a team sport, and at the end of the day, like that's what it comes down to. Like you can tell who's very passionate about like winning again. Like we take the Chiefs, you know, like I feel like they don't hold anyone on their team like at a higher level than they need to hold them, or even like the 49ers. Like when you talk about the 49ers, you talk about the whole team. Like we're not picking and choosing a player to talk about, and those are like people who have like been Super Bowl contenders like multiple times, you know, or won the Super Bowl multiple times. And it's not because they're like, you know what, this star running back is like why we have such a great team. Like we have a great team. They have a great dynamic. Of course we talk about their quarterbacks, but we're always going to talk about their quarterbacks. And I think like that's what it comes down to, is remembering that it's a team sport.
I mean, case in point is if you look at the Chiefs yesterday, they won 26-25 over the Bengals. Mm-hmm. For all intents and purposes, we consider Patrick Mahomes the greatest player in the NFL right now. I don't think it's disputable, and he has the rings to back it up. I know fantasy football guys going crazy. Yesterday, he had his lowest passing yard output as a professional, and to your point, the Chiefs still won.
Yeah,
and that's what it was all about. And I think the Chiefs, the reason why they're a great team is they kind of like follow the lead of their best player, and their best player like understands the dynamic and what it takes to win, keeps a level head, has some humility, and approaches the game from a team first standpoint. And I'll just juxtapose that to like versus like, okay, so look at what he gets paid now. He signed his contract a lot earlier versus a Joe Burrow, versus a Trevor Lawrence, versus a Dak Prescott, versus a Justin Herbert. Sorry, didn't mean to at you on that. But I don't know. How many Super Bowl rings do those guys have combined? And they all get paid more than him. And how many Super Bowls does he have? Right? He's doing something right. So to your point, like, yeah, it's about the team first. He kind of reminds me of Tim Duncan with the Spurs back in the day. They ended up winning 3 or 4 championships, but they kind of took the lead from like their superstar player who was more about the team and winning and making sure that, you know, he was able to get them over the hump as a collective unit, as opposed to being the one guy that kind of stands out and he's the one that should get all the shine.
Yeah, I think players are getting paid based off what they can or what they might be able to do versus like what they're actually doing in the game. Like, take Brock Purdy. He's still on his rookie contract. He's making like $1 million. Like, that is it. But he's not like, oh man, like I don't make enough money to play good, you know? Like, he is proving every day that like he is the quarterback that the 49ers need and that he can take them to the Super Bowl. So when it comes time to renegotiate his contract, he like is pretty confident he's going to get paid. Like, he's got all these great sponsorships now, but he earned it versus like the new guys coming into the league making more money than him because they might be good, because they were good in college.
No, I mean, and one doesn't necessarily translate to the other, as you see. And I loved him in college, but you see what's happening in the NFL with Caleb Williams, and he's just struggling mightily. But it's not him; it's the team around him, and it's this coaching staff, and you know where you land. I mean, Caleb Williams is considered a can't miss prospect, 5-tool player versus a Brock Purdy who was the last pick in the draft, and where you get drafted means everything. Who your coaches are means everything. And so this is important, and this dovetails into what I wanted to talk about today was I've always used this as a metaphor for life, but it came from football, and it has to do with there was a guy named Steve Young. Steve Young is a Hall of Fame quarterback, guided the San Francisco 49ers to a Super Bowl victory. And the reason why I used him as an example was he originally came out of BYU and got drafted into the USFL, which was a different type of football league that you could go into, get paid because they were trying to pay more than what the NFL was. And then eventually he ended up getting drafted and went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who at the time were like the worst franchise in the NFL. From top to bottom, they were a rotten franchise, poorly ran. I mean, poor facilities, poor management, poor ownership, poor drafting, poor roster construction. They used to play in this thing called the Big Sombrero. It was just bad all the way around, but they expected this one guy to kind of come in and salvage the franchise. You're 1 out of 52, not including admin staff, not including management, not including ownership. There's no way one guy can change that culture, especially in football. It has to start, they say a fish rots from the head down, so it has to start from the ownership down. Now, the reason why I bring that up is I was old enough to remember that they considered Steve Young a bust. Like, he wasn't as good as what he was projected to be because he was, what was happening and what was transpiring in Tampa Bay. So Tampa Bay kind of gets rid of him for like a couple of chickens and some pies and sends him off to like the San Francisco 49ers, who at the time were a dynasty, were the greatest team, were the best team in the NFL, coming off, 3 Super Bowl wins. And then lo and behold, Steve Young goes to the best team in the NFL, a franchise that was like the epitome of how a franchise should be ran in sports at the time. And guess what happens to Steve Young? He ends up becoming a Hall of Fame quarterback. So where you go, who you get coached by, Bill Walsh, legendary Hall of Fame coach, matters. The DeBartolos, legendary Hall of Fame owners. Where you go matters. And you see it, like me and Taylor were talking last night about, she's like, man, I really like Baker Mayfield, right? She just likes his moxie, his passion for the game. And, right now the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are 2-0 and they went to the playoffs last year. And it was like, well, what happened to him? Why was he catching so much flack? How come he wasn't able to produce like in other places? And he went to the Cleveland Browns. Yep. I mean, the Cleveland effing Browns were like, he went there. They hadn't been to the playoffs in years. They were winning 1-2 games, 0 games in some years. He finally gets them to the playoffs. It's not good enough. And then they jettison him out as fast as they can for, wait for it, Deshaun Watson. Yes, that Deshaun Watson. The guy who has like 26 sexual counts against him. The guy that is not even as good of a quarterback as Baker Mayfield is. The guy that they guaranteed $250 million to.
That is crazy.
So if you're in an environment like that, if you're in a relationship like that, how are you going to perform when nobody wants you? Are you going to be motivated? Mm-hmm. Like, are you going to show up and give the best that you can give when you know that they're trying to get rid of you, when you know that they're cheating on you, when you know that they don't want you there? How are you going to perform?
Yeah, I think about Zach Wilson last season on the Jets, and, you know, everybody was like, oh, yeah, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers, like to the point where they weren't doing anything to, like, help Zach be ready just in case he had to hop in a game. What happened? Aaron is out, like, the first game, and Zach Wilson has this team on his shoulders now, and I think, like, the Jets aren't good. Like, Aaron is back, and they expected to, like, win and be great. And honestly, like, they look the same as last year, just with Aaron Rodgers so far. And I think Zach caught all the heat for that. Like, his team wasn't behind him. Coaching staff didn't seem like it was behind him. The fan base wasn't behind him. Of course he wasn't successful. And then you're just swapping quarterbacks in and out. Like, what did they go through, 3 or 4 last year? Mm-hmm. Whose morale is that good for? Like, you guys aren't going to win when you treat people like that. And, you know, I just hope that, like, he lands somewhere where he gets time to develop and marinate. And I think we talked about this too. Like, they just expect guys to come into the league and be ready to play at a different level. And that's not how it works. Like, they need time to, like, learn. I think they need to mature and, like, understand the mentals of the game better, because in college, like, you're just there and you're playing, like, out of passion versus, like, you need to be strategic in the NFL. And a lot of the guys aren't getting time to do that anymore.
No, it's weird. This is weird dynamic in the NFL, and it's they're trying to thread this needle. It's like they don't give guys enough time to prove themselves, to your point, like they used to back in the day. Like, God, I remember Troy Aikman's first game. He threw like 3 or 4 interceptions. They got shut out by the Saints. Terry Bradshaw, who won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers, he was horrible his first couple years.
Yeah.
Everybody has a different timetable on, you know, when they're going to develop, when they're going to mature. And a lot of it has to do with, like you said, the support of the team, the support of the fan base, the support of the ownership. Like, you got to want to feel like you're wanted, like you're needed, like you're valuable. I mean, we talk about it, just like people talk about it every day on their jobs. They're like, one of the main reasons, like, you leave a job or you don't perform well in a job has to do with the A word. You don't feel appreciated. That's exactly what it is. And when you're not appreciated, you don't perform. It doesn't change. That psychology doesn't change because you go to the NFL and you're like, well, I'm an NFL ball player, even though nobody wants me, even though they're writing about me in the media negatively, even though they're speaking poorly bad about me on TV. It doesn't impact me. I'm impervious to that. I'm getting paid. I don't have feelings. I'm not a human. No, it's going to impact you. It doesn't matter how much money you get paid. Everybody wants to feel appreciated. Everybody wants to feel wanted.
No, I go back to Brock Purdy. Like, he didn't get thrown into the game. He was the last pick, but I think because of that, he had time to, like, watch and learn. And, like, he had to work hard. And when it was time for him to step up, like, he did. And I think you can see how that translated well to being able to just, like, marinate versus being expected to play, like, regular season right out of college is crazy. I just think that's so crazy. You're playing against guys who've been in the league for, like, what? Some of these guys have been in for, like, 10 years and stuff like that, and you're expected to compete and be better than them? That just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and so I forgot to, like, you know, close that other point was, so the guys don't get enough time to prove themselves. However, and I agree with what you said, they're also getting paid way too early.
Yeah.
Like we just talked about, Herbert, Burrow, Lawrence. I mean, Dak's been in the league for a while, but he should not be getting paid. Look, you get paid what the market says you should get paid and what people are going to pay you. I'm not hating on guys' money. I'll never dip in a guy's wallet. But if you look at, like, the ones I mentioned, like, they got paid way too early, and a lot of these guys are struggling right now. So it's like this weird dichotomy that I just can't balance. It's like they don't get enough time to prove themselves, but then they also get paid way too early, and then that cash straps the franchise because they have a salary cap, and so you can't, like the 49ers, where they have a Brock Purdy who's on $1 million a year. They can fill out the rest of the roster. They can have a Christian McCaffrey. They can have a Deebo Samuel. They can have a Kittle. They can have a great defense because they're able to construct a roster around them based upon the financial position that they're in, because they didn't have to pay a Lamar Jackson. That's right. Mm-hmm. They didn't have to pay a Lamar Jackson $50 million a year. And how do you like them Ravens 0-2?
I will take no Justin Herbert hate. I think Justin is a good quarterback. I think the Chargers just didn't have a good coach. but so far we're looking better. Justin's getting his chance to shine.
And okay, so that dovetails into my next topic, the booty shaker.
I'm a
of the week.
Chargers fan. I gotta rock for my quarterback.
I am a quasi Chargers fan. San
Bolts up,
Diego. I love the
baby.
Bolts. I love their colors, and I actually root for Justin Herbert because he's an Oregon Duck, which is going to lead to my booty
snap.
shaker of the week. So look in the camera here. I'm gonna take my glasses off for this one because I want them to see the pain in my eyes. Okay, Oregon Ducks, where are your fucking feathers at? Like, did you forget like when your college football team got good? Did you forget when you started competing for national championships? Did you forget when you started going to Rose Bowls? It had to do with your duck feathers on your shoulder pads and on your helmets. That's when you became a national brand. It's not these retro Dan Fouts 1970s jerseys, right, that you're paying homage to. You were not good back then. Nobody knew about you. You were irrelevant. How do I know? Because I'm a guy from Vegas that went to UNLV, and I had no idea about Oregon, period, until they decided they wanted to do like this new flashy Oregon, New Jersey thing. And with feathers on the helmet, feathers on the shoulder pads, changing their gear up every game. And it actually transformed just uniforms across college football and pro football. I want those goddamn feathers back. Bring the feathers back. Bring the feathers back. Bring the feathers back.
I'm glad you guys got to hear that rant too. He's got the dog all riled up now.
So anyways, that's a wrap. Bring the feathers back.
Bring the feathers back, please.
Because she has to live with this.
I do.
I am angry. Like, look, you guys like pulled the rug out from under my feet. And Jordan, you're my boy. You're an Oregon Duck guy. You said you guys got a chance to design the jerseys this year. You wanted that retro throwback stuff. And man, I understand this may fracture our relationship. I'm out.